Hello, my name is Conor Meade, and I'm here today at the 2015 Canadian Science Policy Conference with Seqian Wang, who is a master's candidate in neuroscience at McGill University. So, Seqian, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to the conference.
Thank you.
So, Seqian, why don't we start by, if you could tell us a little bit about your work from a high level.
All right, absolutely. So my background is in neuroscience. I did my bachelor in neuroscience. I'm continuing my master's in neuroscience as well. I'm specialized mostly in the imaging aspect of things. So the idea is really to, I study Alzheimer's disease, and to really using imaging brain scans to characterize a disease as it progresses, the different stages of it.
Okay, interesting. So how did you first get interested in that field?
Very good question. I think neuroscience, like the brain, especially from a bachelor level, like the brain, how the brain works, is something that has always been passionate, and it's this level of science that hasn't been kind of like this part of the body that we still don't know much about it. So I felt there was a lot to develop into that. And for my master's Alzheimer's disease, I found there was a lot of need for it. And I think with the aging population in Canada across, I think it's an important issue. So I wanted to get my hands into that.
Absolutely. So what are some of the more promising avenues of research in terms of combating Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and other neurodegenerative diseases?
I would say right now, my research per se is more on the characterizes the disease part of it. We can use this research for testing whether pharmaceutical treatment works or not by looking at the brain images, by looking at the brain scans to see whether there's a change in different ways of characterizing the brain. I would say there's also a lot of potentials in pharmaceutical treatments, like we know amyloid is involved, we know tau pathology involved. We know we're still working hard to characterize the disease, but there's a lot of advancement in that.
Excellent. So let's talk a little bit about the Canadian Science Policy Conference. How did you find out about the conference, and what brought you here?
Absolutely. So in Montreal, I was involved with a community, with an organization called Science and Policy Exchange, which actually started after a student from McGill came to the Canadian Science Policy Conference and thought it was a great idea, so why don't we start something in Montreal, but designed for students, so having a student-based community working on that. So I'm from Science Policy Exchange from Montreal. On Saturday, we're organizing an event called on the STEM education, so the STEM opportunities of work and so on, so there's going to be a discussion panel on that. And I just decided to come to this conference. It's my first time being here, but I'm loving it. It's very professional. It's we get to meet so many people, and we have a lot of amazing guests, I would say.
Absolutely,
I'm very impressed.
Yes. So do you think you'll be coming to future Canadian Science Policy conferences?
Absolutely. I'm hoping I can volunteer again, because this year I was a volunteer. I'm hoping next year I'm going to get more involved even, and hopefully I'm going to come back.
Excellent. So here's a question, because we've been talking a lot at the conference about digital literacy and about the how to get young people involved in science and interested in STEM skills. So I wonder, how did you get interested in science from a young age?
I would say that's a tough one. I'll have to think about it. I can talk about digital literacy, but talking about how I got interested in science, I think it's a tough one. But I think maybe from a cultural background, I mean, just generally speaking, science was the path to take. And I mean, just because my parents are definitely in the field as well, and it was kind of a natural process into that, getting to know the chemistry, getting to know the physics, and getting to know how the world works, right? So that's how I got involved, to be honest.
Okay.
I didn't have a life-changing something that affected me, that made me go into that.
Well, no, that's a great answer, and that's what most of the very successful science policy people here have more or less been saying. So a quick final question before we wrap up. If anyone viewing this video would like to learn more about your research and more about the topics we discussed, where can we find you and your work online?
That's a good question. I would say we have a website specifically for our lab, which is our lab is called Translational Neuroimaging Laboratory, because we're trying to do a lot of translational science, combining molecular with imaging with clinical aspect. So Translational Neuroimaging Laboratory at McGill definitely is
Excellent. We will include a link to that site in the description of the video.
Absolutely.
So once again, Seqian, thank you so much for joining us for this interview.
Thank you very much.
Really it's been an absolute pleasure, and hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.
I will, definitely.
Excellent. All right.